I was born and raised in Barnet, and the NIMR is in Mill Hill, which as the crow flies is about 4 miles. And sadly, I had never heard about the NIMR, let alone the MRC. Now, when I joined the NIMR, there must have been somewhere between 600 or 700 staff working there. It was a major employer in the local area. But in truth, I knew nothing about them. And I sadly knew nothing about what the MRC was doing on behalf of me and all the other people in England as far as health is concerned. I hope that that is going to change, although I will say that to date, a lot of my friends and people at home still have never heard of the Medical Research Council to this day, and wonder sometimes what I used to do and what I used to do, who I used to work for. Locally in Mill Hill, it was looked upon as, you know, those mad people on the top of the hill, those mad professors, which is terribly sad. You know, they're lovely people. It's a great place to work. I just wish that our way of advertising ourselves, of, if you like, propaganda, to get out there, to witness to the amazing work. I recognise it's difficult. Later on in my time there, Mill Hill published a little booklet over several years called the Mill Hill Essays, and they really were written for the general public to consume and to get to know some of the things that's going on. How successful that's been, I don't know. They're still available, but whether the internet will help, I hope it will. It certainly makes a big difference. It's freely available. I think we should use it, and I hope that the new Crick Institute will use those methods of telling people what we do. I think it's important. I really do. Let's face it, most of us are paying for it anyway, so, you know. Okay, so a lot of my time at the NIMR basically is sorting out problems. Okay. So yes, I can repair things, not necessarily always technology, although very often associated with it. Sometimes one has to be diplomatic and go into the lab and explain to somebody, after you've understood what the situation is, that actually there isn't a problem with the equipment. It's the way you're driving it, it's what you're expecting it to do, it's how you're operating it, those sort of things. So a little bit of diplomacy is required there. The technology has changed quite a lot over the years that we've been there. When I started, it was substantially analogue technology. We had a valve tester in the workshop, and we certainly didn't have a valve tester when I retired. That faded away. We went through the whole phase of individual transistors, large-scale integration, and into microprocessors and so on and so forth. And those have made huge changes. The ability to repair down to an individual component level has been something which has moved substantially out of the remit of somebody who is like myself. It's more specialised. And the ability to calibrate a piece of equipment also, which is very important in a lab. Doing away with additional variables is also very important. So needing to understand that and to advise as to whether, yes, we can do something here, it's a simple problem, we can overcome that, or I advise that you do this, that and the other, so going to a specialist. Maybe shortening the downtime of a piece of equipment is probably the main pressure. So nobody in a lab wants you to come and write a paper about a problem, they just want it solved. And that's achieving that at the quickest way is very often the main nub. I mentioned earlier on that I was taken on as an apprentice. And I've spoken about the training at the college and the training in the workshop. But of course the whole environment that was in a retail establishment, which was basically selling in the early days radios and TVs. And that developed as technology developed, and we used to do audio equipment and so on and so forth. But of course, in that whole environment, the customer is always right. So our job was to serve the customer and look after their needs. So when the next customer comes in, that's the person you're focused on. You have to look after that person. And whilst that may be galling to people, in fact, it's one of the aspects I think that I've probably learnt to carry forward. And I hope that that's been appreciated at NIMR. I've certainly got lots of chums who have come and from that environment who I think respect me for what I did, hopefully. But I certainly, for me, there are one or two characters at the NIMR who have very winning ways. One recognises that one is being manipulated because they want to achieve an end. But there's no point in me getting cross about that sort of thing. The fact of the matter is that they actually have a problem they want solved. So they've come to me, they want a solution, give it to them. That's great. And to be fair, I have to set that against the fact that actually the MRC have been very good to me as an employer. They took me on, they've given me a very interesting career, and I would say even more, a pleasant retirement, frankly.